Can Clemson ruin North Carolina's season? Yeah, I know they've lost 2 games, but they still have a lot to play for, a lot of implications. Can Clemson do to North Carolina what they did to Notre Dame? It's a great question. I'm going to dive into that and more. Hey, I'm Brian. Welcome to Clemson Football Live, where we always talk. I say we because I conversate with you. We talk about Clemson football, the good, the bad, the ugly. Sometimes people absolutely hate my guts for saying certain things, but hey, if it's the truth, it's the truth. Well, of course, we celebrate when we win. I hope you subscribe. It's free. It's a great way to support the channel. So let's dive right in. Clemson is on a 2-game winning streak, beating Notre Dame a couple of weeks ago, absolutely owning Georgia Tech. And now they play the toughest game of the season. What's left of the season, okay? It's not the toughest game of the season. It's the toughest game of what is actually left in the season for 2023. And I can't believe the season's almost over. After the North Carolina game, they have South Carolina. Oddly enough, both those teams played in the very first game of the season. So it's quite fitting for them to be our last 2 games. It's kind of funny to me. But let's talk about North Carolina. Now, as I said, North Carolina, they've only lost 2 games this season. And it was 2 losses in a row. It was 2 losses that makes you scratch your head. You're like, how, why, where, when? They lost to University of Virginia. The University of Virginia is not a good football program. They might have played close with Louisville, but the University of Virginia is not a good football team. I think they've won only, 2 or 3 games maybe this year. Then the very next week, North Carolina plays Georgia Tech. They lose by 4 points. Like, what happened? Of course, since then, they've beat a no-name team, Campbell. Then they went into double overtime with Duke. They won 47-45. And the problem really lies within their defense. Because their defense, I want you to think that Clemson is ranked number 6 in the country defensively. North Carolina defensively is ranked to like number 79. So while North Carolina has one of the best offenses, hands down, in the country, with one of the top running backs by yards in the country, with one of the top quarterbacks in the country by yardage, and one of the top offenses by yardage, their defense is still, I mean, it's not that great. Let's talk about Drake May. Drake May is actually number 4 overall in the country in passing yards. He has 3,145 passing yards. Amarian Hampton, their running back, is number 2 in rushing yards as an individual in all of the FBS. He has 1,236 yards. He's only behind the guy at Oklahoma State. If you go down to scoring offense, North Carolina is number 8 in scoring offense. So when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, North Carolina is a big deal. Now, how does this stack against Clemson? As I said, remember, North Carolina is number 3 overall in total offense. The only 2 teams in front of them is Oregon at 2 and LSU at 1. Clemson's number 48 in offense. Now let's go to defense. This is where the Tar Heels, this is their Achilles heel. With all of those crazy good players on the offense, Tez Walker, after the NCAA stopped doing NCAA things, got out of the way, let the guy play. Tez Walker, he's done very well. He has 35 receptions and 600 yards and 6 touchdowns in just a few games, but he had to set out a solid part of the first part of the season because the NCAA wouldn't get out of the way. The guy's already blowing it up, doing great things. I want to say he even got hurt in a game or two. So he's doing a great job. It's the defense. Let's talk about total defense. Clemson, as I said, is ranked number 6 right now in total defense. And we saw that prowess, that craziness against Georgia Tech. The defense looked probably some of the most aggressive, and they almost had the taste of blood in their mouth, and they were like a wild animal going in for the kill. And last week on my Georgia Tech Clemson preview, I said that Clemson had to go after Haynes King, who came into the game with 10 interceptions. He's young. He has a lot of promise. But I said, you have to go after this guy. You must go after him. And don't give him a chance to recoup, to regather his emotions in his mind like you gave Jordan Travis at Florida State. Once you go in for the kill, take him down. North Carolina is ranked number 79 defensively. Number 79. I mean, there's a bunch of bad teams in front of them who has better defenses than they do. And it's just, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. That is what has cost them. So what the treat that we're really in for this week is one of the best offenses in America, comprised of some of the best talent individually in America, will play against Clemson's top-rated defense. Now, it can get interesting with some of the injuries that Clemson has at this point. It hasn't really hurt them over the past couple of weeks, but I will say that I'll leave Notre Dame out of this. Notre Dame is a very good football team. They're not the best football team. They're not a top 10 team, but they're still a good football team. They're not a pushover. They had to play against a bunch of fill-in players for Clemson on defense, especially in the secondary because of injuries. And those freshmen stepped up. The freshmen stepped up this past week. Khalil Barnes, Lewis, Griffin, Terrell. They look great. They did a great job. But you're playing against Drake May, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And not only that, there's a lot of people in the pros looking at him more and more and more and more, going, we like him over Caleb Williams. We like him over other potential quarterbacks in the draft. So let's talk about total offense for Clemson. Now, as I said, North Carolina is number 3 total offense overall, whereas Clemson's number 48. So that takes a number 48 offense going head-to-head with a number 79 defense. And in this past week against Georgia Tech, we saw the balanced run between Maffa and Shipley. And those guys were chewing up yards. We saw a better game out of Cade Klubnik. And that makes you a little more confident going into a game with such a high-powered offense. Now, this is one of those things that you have to come to grips with. First, you can't allow Drake May to sit back there and just sling the ball all over you. And they can run the football. As I said, the number 2 running back individually in the FBS plays for North Carolina. So Clemson has their work cut out for them, but if there's a defense who can do it, especially in the ACC, it's this defense. This would be the defense that could step in and slow things down, bend but don't break, maybe force a turnover, and maybe, just maybe, create something that maybe it's not there. And I did want to tell you this, the Clemson rushing attack last week, against Georgia Tech. Maffa had 17 carries for 96 yards. Will Shipley had 11 carries for 76 yards or 77 yards. Even Dominique Thomas came in later on, 4 carries, 26 yards. Well, let's just focus on Maffa and Shipley. What did I say last week? Especially after the Notre Dame game, 4 yards rushing for Phil Maffa, because Will Shipley was hurt. And I don't want anyone hurt, but I've been saying Maffa has been a spectator more than he has been utilized. And that has to change. Fortunately, thank you. Maffa was used more this week, and we see his output. In fact, at halftime, Shipley was the leading rusher. And so Maffa getting more calls to Shipley took that hit. That was the worst mistargeting hit that I've seen in quite a while. But there is a lot at stake in this football. Can Clemson ruin the remainder of North Carolina's season? North Carolina has 2 losses. Both of those losses, as I said, they're in conference. I don't have it the statistics in front of me of where they stand if Louisville can get a loss. If Louisville wins this coming Saturday against Miami, it's Louisville and Florida State for the ACC championship. Who would have thought? Florida State, yes. Yes, definitely. Louisville, no. Brian Brom's done a great job up there, taking over the team, doing some really good things there. And if he wins against Miami this week, they only have 1 loss, and that's a head scratcher to Pittsburgh. But unless they get the second loss, and now if they get a second loss, it's going to jumble up with some 2-loss teams in the ACC and ACC conference play. It's going to be interesting. But what I want to throw out there to you is that North Carolina still has a lot to play for, not only for conference play, but just the overall look of their season. Because if they win this game, and I'm going to go back here to North Carolina's season, started going down the statistics for the Clemson Georgia Tech game. But if North Carolina wins this game, they'll be 9-2, and then they play NC State at NC State. Now, that's, 20 minutes? They're about 20 minutes from one another, something like that. So that would give them a 10-win regular season. If they can beat Clemson, they can beat NC State. Both of these games are away. So they're playing Clemson at Clemson 3:30 this Saturday on ESPN, and then at North Carolina State the following week after Thanksgiving. Now, if Clemson beat North Carolina, at this point in the season, it wouldn't be that bad of a loss. It wouldn't be that bad of a loss. It really would. But you're not going to have a 10-win regular season. You would take a bowl game win to get to 10 wins. And I think that would definitely put a damper on the season. It wouldn't be a total lost cause. But when you think that you have one of the top quarterbacks in the country, you have one of the top running backs, the second best running back by yardage in the country, you have Tez Walker, you have one of the top offenses, number 3 overall total offense. You have the 8th ranked scoring offense in the country, averaging 39.9 points per game. And you can't get it done. I mean, I'm just saying, you can't get it done. That's a problem. That's a problem. And I see that. I would not say that Clemson would ruin the season if they beat North Carolina. I'm just saying that maybe in North Carolina's eyes, it would definitely put a damper in it. 3 losses versus 2 losses can be the difference between a New Year's Day Bowl and not. 10-win teams get the nod into bigger bowls. If you have a bunch of teams who has 2 losses within conference, they're going to start looking at things like that. They're going to look at 10 wins. They're going to look at scoring offenses. They're going to look at scoring defenses. They're going to look at total offense, total defense. This could be the difference between playing on December the 26th and January 1. Now, one of the things that I look at as I'm going through North Carolina's schedule, and this is something for us Clemson fans we need to look at. This is not trash talk. This is just me telling the truth. I have a ton of respect for Mac Brown. I have a ton of respect for Drake May and that entire defense, or entire offense, excuse me. Their defense I really don't have any respect for, but hey, make a believer out of me on this coming Saturday. But I want to make this very clear. Georgia Tech last week, some of their fans commented on my video and said there's no way that you hold them to less than 30 points. Now, in college football, we have a good time just talking some trash. We also say some things that, a lot of things that are biased. We can be biased, but my goal, even though I'm a human being, so I can be biased, my goal is to make sure that I try to be as realistic as possible. That's why even a lot of Clemson fans really, not all of them, but there's a solid amount of Clemson fans, they don't like me because I'm not going to see everything through orange-colored glasses. Clemson is not fixed right now. I'm glad we've won 2 games in a row, but we're just 2 weeks removed from Swinney losing it on Tyler from Spartanburg. We still have a lot of things to fix, and it starts in the coaching department, not near as much as the players. So I'm going to tell the truth. With that said, getting straight to the point, I told Georgia Tech fans, you have not seen a defense like Clemson all year. You haven't. I've looked at your opponents. Yes, Clemson's 4-4, 2-4 in the conference at the time. They're now 3-4 after beating Georgia Tech. I said Haynes King is very talented, but I'm telling you, Haynes King has not seen a defense like Clemson. And if they are truly making strides to win out the rest of this season, Haynes King is going to be given looks that he hasn't seen all year. He's going to have pressure on him like he has never had all year. And guess what happened? He threw 4 interceptions, 1 being a pick 6. He was hit like crazy. He was tackled. He was smacked around. And Clemson won 42-21. Yeah, they didn't crack 30 points. North Carolina is a different story because they're Drake May. They have Drake May. I have a lot of respect for Drake May. If I was an NFL football team and I wanted to get a quarterback I believe that I could build a franchise on, or at least have a legitimate shot of building a franchise on, it would be Drake May. And I've said that over and over. I have a lot of respect for him, a lot of respect for Mac Brown. He is going to get his because he's that talented. You have Tez Walker. He is going to get his. You have Hampton at running back. He's going to bust a couple of good runs. We saw that with Estema from Notre Dame. He had some good runs. Clemson ended up winning that ball game. Now, I believe this is going to be a good ball game. And we can't say as Clemson fans, just because we beat North Carolina in the ACC championship, that we're going to beat them in Death Valley. We can't say that. What I will say, though, I will say that it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough in Death Valley. Death Valley is a very difficult place to play. Clemson has a lot to play for right now. They have pride to play for. And whether they're a top 5 team or whether they're outside the top 25 like they are right now, they are very tough to play in Death Valley. And there's a lot at stake, because after they play this game, if they beat North Carolina, they'll be 4-4 in the conference. They'll be 7-4 overall. And then they have to go the very next week and play at South Carolina. So they only have 2 games to focus on right now. In fact, they don't even have 2 games. They have 1 game to focus on. I hope they're focusing on this game completely and totally and forget South Carolina. They can think about South Carolina next week. But I believe that Drake May, as talented as he is, he has not seen a defense like Clemson all season long. He hasn't. Hampton hasn't seen a defense. Tez Walker has not played against a defense like Clemson's all season long. And I'm going to total defense as we speak. I'm pulling up total defense on the NCAA statistics. The only other defense that North Carolina could have encountered would be number 19 Miami, University of Miami. That would be the only team they could have encountered that would have played them the toughest. Clemson is number 6 rated defense. So I'm not seeing South Carolina in there. I'm not seeing Appalachian State or Minnesota or Pittsburgh. I see Miami. And this is going to be, once again, this is going to be a fantastic game. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I truly believe that we're going to see Clemson go after Drake May. But I believe, more importantly, on the offensive side for Clemson, who's ranked only number 48 in the country, total offense, versus North Carolina's 79th ranked defense. If Clemson's offense as a whole has learned its lesson from the top down, they will continue to feed Moffitt. They will continue to feed Shipley. They'll continue to give Cade the ability to make certain throws to certain people. I called the touchdown throw the other day to Brennan Stoll. That crazy pass, it was very risky, but if we saw it with Trevor Lawrence to, I don't know, name one of our great tight ends, we would have said that it was a great touchdown pass, and he just had the ability. It was risky, but we're seeing more and more trust being handed out to Cade, and Cade is taking more advantage of it in a good way. So I hope to see Clemson dominate this game in the sense of on the offensive side of the football, because I think that they're set up to do that. I think offensively they can definitely do it against this North Carolina 79th ranked total defense in the country. That would be a great move. Obviously, I think you're going to have a great matchup between the number 3 offense versus the number 6 defense with North Carolina versus Clemson's defense. That's going to be a lot of fun. But if you are just trying to understand where North Carolina's at, who they are, who's playing for them, other than Drake May, those are Hampton at running back, Tez Walker. These are some of the guys that you need to look out for. You need to understand that they have a very powerful offense. The offense has not been the problem. And their loss to Georgia Tech, they put 42 points on the board. That Georgia Tech offense that we just played, just a few weeks removed from Georgia Tech playing North Carolina to us playing Georgia Tech. That Georgia Tech offense put up 46 points on North Carolina. The week before that, a pedestrian, that's probably being nice, Virginia team put up 31 points on that North Carolina team and limited North Carolina to 27 points. One of the top scoring offenses in the country. So this is just one of those games to where some of these lopsided rankings, it's going to be really interesting to see how our defense and our offense plays against their offense. But I think where it could really come down to is our offense against their terrible defense and just see where it lands. So I will give my prediction in the next few days, but I wanted to give you a chance to be able to hear about who they are, what they're doing. There's more than Drake May and Mac Brown at North Carolina. I know I named out Tez Walker and Hampton. I know there's other players there, but you need to know about their prowess. You need to know where they rank in certain categories and why it's important, how they match up versus us. And it's just really interesting. A lot of people's talking about how Drake May is not doing that great. Drake May is still doing fantastic. I mean, on the season, as I said, the guy is one of the top passers in the country right now. 231 of 351. He's thrown 6 interceptions. He's thrown for 3,145 yards and 21 touchdowns. Okay. Yes, they lost to Georgia Tech. Yes, they lost to UVA, but the guy is still pumping out unbelievable numbers, and he could be quarterback for my team any day of the week, and I'd be happy. Again, Clemson's a 6.5-point favorite. The over-under is 58.5 points for this game. The game will kick off 3:30 this Saturday on ESPN. Thank you for joining me. I do want to mention my sponsors. In the video below, you'll see links to 4puttcarts.com, a link to 4puttcarts.com. They sponsor the show. They're a beverage and snack cart service for golf courses and special events. So if you're a golf course, even if you have a fully staffed tournament coming up, you need to get them out there. You don't need warm bodies. You need expertise. And I'm telling you, that would bring you some great publicity. Also, if you have a special event coming up, you need to get them out there to your special event, whether it's a birthday party, whether it's any type of special occasion, get them out there. If you're having a reveal party, whether it's a boy or a girl for your baby, you need to get them out there. Why? It would be fun. They'll handle the snacks and the beverages. It would be great. Also, the Sawmill Shop, we've been giving away some of these. We got to give away more. I talked to Eric the other day. Reach out to them and let both of these companies know you heard about them from me. Folks, I'll have my prediction out in the next couple of days, and I look forward to seeing you there. I hope you subscribe. It's free, and you can also join on a monthly basis at the join button below. I'll catch you next time. As always, go Tigers.